Hello friends, welcome to DWG World. Friends, Harrison Odjegba Okene. He is the only person in the world who survived without oxygen for 2 whole days at the bottom of the ocean without any equipment. Was fate kind to him, or death did not find him? Friends, there is no doubt that the oceans are very scary. But this fear increases when we go inside the ocean. As you go in, this sea will become so lonely, terrible, and eager to take human life. 80% of the ocean is where no human has been till date. And of course no one wants to go. But even then the boats were filled with ships and even passengers. Entire airplanes have also sunk in the depths of the sea, from where no one came back alive. But today's story will revolve around this person, who is also the luckiest person in the world at the same time. And bad luck too. This man named Harrison Odjegba Okene from Nigeria used to work as a cook on a tugboat. On 26 May 2013, the tugboat left with 12 crew members to help an oil tanker in the Gulf of Guinea, in which Harrison was also present. An oil tanker was stuck at the specified location in the Gulf of Guinea, 32 kilometers from the coast of Nigeria. This is a routine job for the board operators because their job is to tow the ships or take them out of low water. But today was not normal for him in any way. At that time it was 4:30 a.m. in the morning. As usual, they started towing the oil tanker with the help of ropes. Just as they were moving forward, suddenly a huge, terrifying wave rise from the sea and came down on the tugboat. Due to this, there was a strong pressure on the tugboat and it flipped over. This pressure was so intense that the hooks of the rope with which they were towing the oil tanker also broke and the tug separated from the ship and began to sink rapidly into the water. And as it happens in this situation, there was chaos among the 12 crew members inside. Most of the crew members were sitting in their cabins, and unfortunately their cabins were on lockdown, because pirates are very common in this part of the sea. For this reason, keeping in mind the safety, they had already locked the cabins. Locking the cabin might have prevented pirates from getting in, but it was of no use in front of the sea water. The water was rapidly filling the cabin. But luckily Harrison left the cabin and went to the washroom before the board overturned. At the time the board was upside down, he was only in his underwear and fell badly from the washroom ceiling. Now he understood what was happening. The water started coming in rapidly from the faucet of the washroom. By doing this, he managed to open the door of the washroom. As soon as the door opened, the flow of water swept Harrison away to the other washroom on board, where there was an air pocket. By this time it was completely dark on board. It was so dark that Harrison couldn't even see his hands. He only felt that he was underwater and that his face was sticking out of an air pocket. Meanwhile, the tugboat went to the bottom of the sea and there was silence. The tugboat had gone 30 meters or hundreds of feet below the ocean surface. It is as deep as an 8-story building. Harrison, who had no experience in swimming, was left alone in the cold water and in pitch darkness, wearing only a one underwear, and knew that he had no chance of survival because of the air pocket in his body. He was breathing, he could fill up with water at any time. After doing so, he decided to leave here. After going underwater by feeling things with his hands, he surprisingly found another place where there was a big air pocket. It was the office of the tugboat engineer where he decided to stay. There was nothing to eat or drink, and the oxygen supply was only as much as there was oxygen in the air pocket. This air pocket was only increased by 1.2 meters. How much oxygen will there be in such a small space that will keep Harrison alive? Obviously, the chance of his survival was very low here. Now he was in fear that he heard some voices. Yes, it was the sound of sharks eating something. Harrison didn't see it, but he was convinced that the sharks had managed to get to his teammates. Harrison, who was alive in the mouth of death, now began to use his mind. While scrambling, he found some floating cans of Coke, which he drank to save himself from dehydration. After that, he found a floating mattress on which he lifted his chest out of the water. If he stayed in the cold water for a while, he would have suffered from hypothermia. In this condition, all the body heat is lost. He was able to avoid dehydration and hypothermia, the result of which is nothing but death. But there was one thing for which there was no solution. And that thing was oxygen. The oxygen level in the air pocket was dropping rapidly. According to one estimate, the small pocket he was in contained only enough oxygen in which a human could survive for only 60 hours. 30 meters down in the ocean was alive inside a small air pocket in a small room of tuckboard. 2 days had passed since the accident. Oxygen supply which was already very limited. He was only a guest for a few hours now. Harrison was now only waiting for his death in this darkness. After the worst 2 days of his life, when he was very close to death, he finally heard a knock. The driver of the oil tanker sent a team of divers who came to find the bodies in the debris of the tuckboard. They had no idea that a person would be alive in the debris even after 2 days. Meanwhile, Harrison was overjoyed when he saw the light from under the water in the engineer's room. When he saw a rescue diver coming out of the water in front of him. Diver said Harrison was only minutes away from death at the time. And his body was so exhausted that he could not even open his eyes. The diver immediately put an oxygen helmet on him and tried to normalize his oxygen levels. Harrison was not immediately pulled out of the ocean, because the sudden pressure change could have caused his heart failure. For this reason, a diving bell was ordered first and Harrison was put in it and taken out of the ocean. Even after getting out, he had to stay in the same diving bell for 2 days as his pressure was slowly reduced. After 2 days, Harrison was completely back to normal. After regaining consciousness, he first said that he would never stray near the sea again. Harrison without any diving equipment. Having to spend the longest time at the bottom of the ocean and then being the first and perhaps the last person in the world to come out alive, these 2 worst days of his life have hurt Harrison so deeply that to this day, he continues to have bad dreams.